In 2019, I went on a quest. And that quest has brought three things. First, sustainable, happy, profit. And that's the book. How we can create products and organizations that, in fact, they can thrive. Two, the Agile Sustainability Manifesto. And that's how we evolve our craft and guide our decisions. And three, the Agile Sustainability Hands-on Program. But before I get ahead of myself, we're going to spend this time together with a slight diamond shape. So beyond diversion and conversion, we're also going to level up the playing field. And we'll go through three main areas. What? State of affairs. Now what? Why this matter? Why is that significant? And the action, now what section? I assume that you have heard, maybe in the BBC or other places, about the rather concerning unwarming of our planet. And I assume maybe some of you have looked at the latest IPCC report. We could be looking at the state of our markets and also why GDP is not a good metric, and or how GDP, in fact, is decoupled from harming emissions. That's potentially a good thing. We could also look at multiple different variables and correlations, not necessarily causations. But what I really don't want to do is to add into the overload, into the overwhelm, and I want to bring it down to earth. So what I think we should be asking ourselves are these 5 questions. How would we feed ourselves? So question for you, raise your hand if your work is somehow related to our food system. Okay, look around. This is going to increase year on year. And our food system is a complex, broken, adaptive system. And that's where we, Lean Agile peeps, come into play. Our food system doesn't work for everyone, and it certainly does not work for the environment. Petrochemical agriculture, which unfortunately is the majority of our food system, has moved agriculture into one of the leading emissions, pollution. And if we only look in terms of a quick math, the input that it requires in terms of land use, water, electricity, pollution, just doesn't make sense. Taxpayer money, subsidies, right? And we not only make food that doesn't work for the environment, but we also manage to waste 1/3% of it, whilst 10% of the population goes hungry. So we need to be more lean. The questions of how would we harness energy and how would we store what we learn. And I ask this because I would imagine most of us, somehow our work is related to technology. And technology is no longer an industry in itself. I see it like a fabric layer of any business. And IT, information technology, needs these two things. So if we are to uncover better ways to deliver technology and help others doing so, we need to face some constraints. We have tried hoarding data. It hasn't led us to make better decisions. The figures, especially AI and quantum computing, are really pushing some of the forecasts, and our grids can cope with that. So how are we better adapt to change? The question of how would we make things? And I ask this because here, technologies, we tend to think that we operate in this abstract space, but digital is physical. We are governed by natural laws, regardless if we know it, we like it or not. And Agile is really to help us to increase predictability and reduce risk. So here are some risks. we are already consuming almost 2 planet Earth. And if everybody was behaving in the way that we do, in the tiniest little northwestern side of the world, we would be at the rate of 5 Earths. So we need to be more lean. The question of how would we heal ourselves? And that's, again, checking the room. Who here works in our healthcare system or related to it? Okay, good. This is one of the most rapid growing industries, and that includes biotech. Yet again, a broken, complex, adaptive system. That's where we come in. For example, air pollution alone is responsible for 3.7 million deaths a year. Preventable deaths. And I couldn't find figures for Brighton, but London, which is not very far, 7,000 deaths a year. And we also know is not only air pollution, but climate change has health implications and fluctuation of diseases. So how can we help this industry, complex, adaptive, that has huge stresses and demands? Systems thinking, anyone? And how would we conduct business? Which we are part of it as stakeholders, as customers, as employees, as investors, as hopefully active part of our civic life. And that's where my work and research is being focused on. And I can tell you one thing. There is a better way to do business. Because our business, as usual, is the most unusual. We looked at air pollution. We already pushed 1 million species into extinction, converted 75% of land, and 7 of the 9 greatest threats to the world are directly related to ongoing of destruction of nature, and that's destruction made by us, humans, one species. So let's take a pause. So what? Question for you. What is becoming more clear? Now hold that thought. So what I want to do now is to show you a framework, and we know those can be helpful. Part 1 is this image over here, which are the planetary boundaries, and I think it's a wonderful information radiator. Anything that stays within the green bit, we good. Anything that goes beyond that, we exceeded, we surpassed the safe operating space. And I'm not going to lie, it doesn't look great, but let's not go into misery, because it's good to remind ourselves that we have managed to push things back in the past. When we put our efforts in the right place, we can change things at the volume and at the speed that is required. Like the ozone layer. So we've done it before, we can do it again. So part 1, part 2 is the Sustainable Development Goals. So 17 SDGs, legally binding by the Paris Agreement, some of which come earlier than others. For example, halving our emissions by 2030, so that's 4 years. And yes, many of the SDGs are related to the planetary boundaries, but others are what's called social layer, social capital. So we sort of merge these two things. This is the framework I wanted to show you, which is called the donut economics, like grounded in real economy and life, rather than half-baked ideas. And it's called a donut because it has the shape of one, having the outer layer, which is our ecological ceiling. We don't want to surpass that, overshoot. And then the inner layer, which is our social foundation. We don't want to leave anyone behind in terms of access to food, water, quality education, justice, political voice. Right? So, right, the DO is our safe operating space as humanity. And when we do these things, I'm one of the organizations in actions for the Donut Economic Action Lab. And in fact, you have tools and stories that I put out there for free under the comments. If you want to use it, please feel free. And when we bring these ideas at work, sometimes we have a new framework, a new model, something. We don't have to do these things in an overcomplicated and grandiose thing. Right? Start small, learn fast. It can be iterative and incremental. And here is an example from not long ago. We appended this from an existing conference where 70 professionals, we look at the donut economics and how can we bring it down to tangibility in our work. And so start small, learn fast. What you can is start now. And in the subject of sustainability, we have these conversations all the time. I can imagine, like, at even dinner table, is it politics, is it population? Are the masses, the individuals, going to do the change? Is it politics? We know policies and laws are too slow, have loopholes. And to me, what it becomes very clear is that bang in the middle, what we have is a great structure to tap into, and that's organizations. And organizations can do good and can do well. And organizations are composed of individuals. And we are incredibly privileged, not just for being here today, but also because with our work, we have access and we have ease. We have access to key areas of the organization, and we have ease in terms of tools, skills, already ready on our tool belt. So it is our responsibility. I did say I went on this quest 2019, a quest to make my own company better. How can I, one person LTD function, have sustainability as fabric layer? So through that research, I'm not going to lie, I did find moments very deceiving and frustrating, especially when finding that narratives and operations were quite dissonant. Like greenwashing, we say one thing, we do another. But the ones that I did find had very clear patterns and mechanisms that we can learn from. And that's really where the sustainable happy profit came about, a way for me to share those things beyond one customer, one session, one talk at a time. So what I want to do at relatively fast speed now is take you through 3 examples from that research. 1. A utilities energy company. In fact, they managed to turn around their figures within 10 years, more like 85 renewables versus. And you can see, giving energy already 10 million people, expected by 2030, 50 million people, doing all these things, plus generating an extra 30% of profits. And they anchor so they could change course. And one of the things I think is worth pointing is that they took an inventory list, and every end of life was taken as an opportunity to put, well, the money where their mouth was. Really valuing adapting to change. An example of servicing, this is a bank. I think the figures talk by themselves. What's called ethical portfolio performs better than the other one. Like imagine if by default, all our portfolios were ethical. Our pensions ethical by default. Anyway. So aside of halving their emissions, we all to do, one thing I think is important to ask ourselves as well is, where is our niche? Where can we have the biggest impact? And for them, what's really specific, purposeful investments? Who are they giving loans to or any other funding? For things that will help them to have ripple effects into where a strategy was. And they do a lot of partnerships, actually one with more than 150 companies, like imagine helping delivery of that. Including the WWF. And for me, that talks to me about not only valuing customer collaboration, but valuing the whole value chain collaboration. That's right in line with Sustainable Development Goal 17, which is partnership for the goals. And what a lever that can be. And then I thought manufacturing, right? So we've seen utilities, servicing, and then something slightly more physical. So this is a manufacturing company. They not only reduce their absolute emissions by 70%, but also they created their own framework to help the employees, to support them in a way that they could be problem solvers. We talk about these things very often, but tangibly to do so. And I am sure here in the room we have many stories when we, in fact, value more individuals and interactions. Okay, so you're ready to come in the quest with me. Huh? But you are going to face resistance. So what I want to do is arm you to how to break some of the myths. So how can you ninja them? Because the myth that you may come across is that, yes, this all sounds good, but people don't care. Well, people do care. Employees, customers, investors are eager to find those ethical portfolios. Employees will refuse to work for organizations with actual valuable purpose. Customers willing to pay more. And for the ones that read and remember the Agile Manifesto, the About Us section, building those organizational communities that we want to be part of, that we want to work for. The myth that, this sounds expensive. And it may come in many forms. There is no funding or budget allocated or who knows what. But let's look at it. It's official, renewables are cheaper. And not only when you do comparison of kilowatt hours, but also reduction of cost, extraction, maintenance, transport. We don't tend to think about those things. Often those things are funded by our taxpayers' money. So that's energy. When we look at materials, 90% of the materials we put in our products are wasted. Imagine if we keep them into our value chain, or we don't even put them there to start with. And a specific fact years ago that I heard, and it really stuck with me, which is that there is more gold in e-waste, that's the stuff like that we no longer use, more gold in e-waste than left on the ground. I mean, what are we doing? Energy, materials, and then regeneration. It's not mission zero, it's beyond mission zero. We want to leave it in a better state. And we spoke about our food system. So regenerative agriculture not only reduces greenhouse gas emissions, also cleans the air, the water, doesn't need chemicals. It generates better returns and is more resilient. So if something happens with this crop, then you can still feed your nation. So really harnessing, adapting to change for competitive advantage. The myth of, well, we are bounded to political and market systems. Political systems respond to people. And through history, we have examples of successfully, at extraordinary odds, achieve political change. The myth of, but what about growth and profit? Well, what about it? Let's look, because this is where growth and profit are going. Some figures from 60 million in the US, the first quarter of the year, literally down the drain. So that's water. But what about fire? And again, here, figure 17, 18 from California wildfires, a quarter-century profits up in flames. And across the world, there's about 1% of GDP loss because of fires. And we know this is not far away places, this is far, close, happening often enough. And then shortages as well. I think it's obvious that it has surface or emerge to the surface our weaker value chains, conflicts, epidemics, wars, supply logistics, right? Dry out Panama Canal. Even some example of companies that they had just shut operations for 10 days. So if as a team, we are to come together at regular intervals to become more effective, right? And therefore tune and adjust accordingly, I think we are missing part of the picture. And the myth of like, oh, this is too complex. I mean, it is complex. We're talking about the biosphere. But this is what is up for grabs. 12 trillion just by achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. So if our highest priority is early and continuous delivery of value, it's here. All right, so here's a slight diversion, but it will make sense in a minute. When we are confronted with a challenge, we often look at the problem quite narrowing. And in sustainability, we often talk about carbon emissions, and we are to halve our emissions by 2030. But also, we need to come to terms with our overconsumption, our loss of biodiversity. So when you start bringing these things at work, looking across your value chain, you will see that we tend to, our inertia is to sort of feel quite complacent, and especially across the value chain, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So on your right-hand side, this the organization Stop the Traffic is a nonprofit I collaborate with, and their sole mission is to prevent human trafficking and modern slavery. And this is closer than you think. It's in the food that we eat, in the stuff that we use, the clothes that we wear, and it's in our healthcare system. Another question for you, a pause moment. What is becoming more apparent? And how is that related to our work? So, with this excuse, as a networking tip, today, throughout the day, in the drink is later, take the opportunity to speak with someone you haven't yet and share what is more clear, what is more apparent, how does that relate to our work? Because we want to go far, we better go together. So the action-oriented section starts by telling you that we have right here 30 billion. And this is a guesstimate, very conservative guesstimate we made up, about the amount of revenue we here can help and tap into being part of the solution. So let's put the money where we want the world to go. It's as simple, as powerful as that. Let's put the money, let's put the time, the efforts, our hearts there too. Because after signing the Paris Agreement, the top banks managed to pump extra 5.5 trillion into the fossil fuels. So you can use organizations like debunk.green. Check out your bank. How are they performing? Does that align with your values? If you don't like what you see, change it. I changed my bank, my company bank, my household bank. And you may not be able to change your company one as easy as I can, but you will have figures and details and facts to be able to influence. I mean, we do that as part of our work. So that's banks, but also, let's not forget pensions, our pension money. And here in the UK, every £10 to your pension, at least 2 go into deforestation. Unknowingly, that's not what my pension makes me feel or want to look like, let alone the other £8 where they go. So you can look at organizations like Make My Money Matter. They also have some templates that you can just take and send to your pension provider and ask them to stop putting your pension money into things you don't want the world to go. And then also insurance. And I know we have some insurance people here. So talk to me if you know about 1% LTD insurance into ethical portfolios. I love to talk to you. I'm a circular economy professional from Cambridge University, and I find that circular economy really helps organizations to sort of bring down this level into how do we design our products and services. And given the time, the idea of circular economy is fairly straightforward. We want to move away from a take, make, waste economy where we take stuff from Earth, we make stuff with it, and then we waste it, take, make, waste. And instead, as the name it says, we want it circular to keep these things within. And there are many models, the 5, 7, 9, 11 Rs. But in essence, has 3 principles. First, we want to keep our products and materials in use as long as possible. And this visual is what's called the butterfly diagram. So on your right-hand side, you have the manufacturing side of that butterfly, right, where we want to keep those products and materials in use. And if you notice, the recycling one is at the very end. And that's because it's the most expensive thing that we can do in terms of finance, effort, time, materials, energy. And we tend to think that as default if we are lucky. So how many other things we can do to keep those products and materials in use? And then on the left-hand side, what you have is called the biological side. And you'll be surprised how many things one affects the other. In fact, you may find byproducts by looking at those things. For example, here it talks to us about biogas. And just with a customer recently, we launched 2 more servicing lines by looking at stuff like this. The principle of reduce waste and pollution. So here the image is from, well, we know this, value stream mapping. So in, I think, 2021, I published for the first time this idea that we look at our value stream mapping quite narrowly. We put so much effort, so many conversations, many departments, hopefully across beyond the organizational boundaries, and we only look at reduce waste of one variable, reduce waste of time. So my argument is, yes, let's look at reduced waste of time and finance, but also materials, energy. I mean, we have the frameworks already. Let's take our practice up a notch. I was working with one of the biggest utilities here in the UK, and just by looking at a fairly small section, the return process, it not only gave us the opportunity of a great resell potential, things sitting there doing nothing, but also we reduced the warehouse cost. So the money's here. And then the principle of regenerate natural systems. And that makes me think about that relentless intention of technical excellence and good design. The visual here is what's called the life principles from biomimicry. At its core, its ethos is creating conditions that are conducive to life beyond just humans. Imagine if all we did were creating conditions conducive to life. And biomimicry, in very short, is essentially tapping in innovation that's been refined for 3.8 billion years of existence. The answers to our problems are in the living beings around us, not in the fossils. Last month, my latest book was published, and it's about biomimicry, specifically around the edges and business design. How can we tap into these natural mechanisms to inform our decisions? All right, let's remember, we have access and we have ease. So where do you want the world to go? How do you want to be part of it? what's between there and now? Therefore, what's next? Right, so 3 fairly action, tangible, easy, I hope, things for you to do now. 1, head over the Agile Alliance. Check out the Agile Sustainability Manifesto. 4 values, 8 principles, right? Builds upon the existing. And it's also live, right? This is an emergent area. We have data. You can grab it from the QR code. I mean, it's more than 25 years, right? A quarter of a century since the Agile Manifesto. Is really, really time for us to take our own practice up a notch. Put your name on it, but most importantly, guide the many decisions we take every day. 2, head over the Green Software Foundation. I'm one of the champions for them. And you have things that you can already use for free with your team, like the Impact Framework. And on that QR code, you can access a free green software training. And it's a really good baseline to help you understand embedded carbon and things like that. And then 3, join us at the Agile Sustainability Practitioner Program. We are the coalition of the willing, and it's a bunch of us as freelancers. That back in 2023, we started running these cohorts of a whole month. And yes, you live with knowledge about sustainable development goals, circular economy, complexity science, and in the application of our Agile work. But also you live with experience, because this is a hands-on program. And with any change, this is the biggest chasm to cross, right? From theoretical agreement, we should do something, into tangible, impactful action. So we are on this quest of moving people from urgency into agency. Now, I love to leave you with this thought. This is home. All our conceptual inventions that don't support this home to thrive as a whole are flawed. There are no boundaries. We all breathe the same air. This is our home, which is not ours alone.
Thanks, Carl. It's really just to echo one part of what you said. So I work for a circular commerce company, and by using the principles within the Green Software Foundation training, which are super simple, which are data in transport and data at rest burn carbon, and that's all you need to know. Using the techniques within there, we maintain carbon usage of our platform flat despite growing usage 40%. We almost, 40x the number of people and customers using our platform, but we maintain carbon, which I think is really powerful. So I'd really encourage everybody to check out the Green Software Foundation.
Thank you. And that reminds me of something slightly. I go into diversions. We were talking about curiosity. I was disappointed. Why not cats? Curiosity may kill the cat, but it can save your organization. I love cats. Anyway, me and diversions. The other thing that you have as well in the Agile Alliance, we have this sustainability initiative. There is a section that is called Quick Start and has tools, assessments, bite-sized sort of content things, one of which is about digital cleanup. And there is a story there of like how digital cleanup can help also your P&L, right? Your profit and loss. So there are very tangible things we can do already today, and you do not have to ask for permission.
I feel quite emotional. I think it's the first talk I've been to that really hit. I work for a pensions company, and I'm going to go back and I want to share a one-pager to our corporate social responsibility group and our investment lead. Can you signpost me to just something? Because I think it will take me months to create that one single impactful thing. So
Yeah.
I just want to go back and share it with 3 individuals in the organisation to get them to feel like I feel, because they really will get this, and I believe in them that they will do something. So you say in one conversation and then to another, can you signpost me to something that would help me do that, and maybe everyone else in here who might be able to do the same?
Sure, pleasure. Let's exchange numbers or whatever we do nowadays, business cards, digital ones. And if I put something together, we can share with the rest if it's good for you guys. But thank you so much for opening up. I think emotions are very important. Emotions are energy. What do we do with that excess energy, right? Like the Agile Sustainability Manifesto came from frustration. So I tend to think and remind myself about, this is excess energy. Can we put it in something productive? So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We will send out a post-conference email with slides, and so we can add something to that.
Carl, there's a...
Thank you for being part of the solution.
Hello. First off, I love cats too. I work for a very large organisation, you probably guess it's Allianz in there. So there is a lot of people working in the company, thousands upon thousands of people across the world. If there's one thing that you could give me to do to take back and propagate across all my team and then repeat that across the rest of the company, what would you suggest?
Oh, the golden solutions. Well, we can do another session. Just let me know. I'll be happy to share this one thing. It'll be packed differently. Maybe we can do something around insurance in particular. But I think it's about finding agency. So many of the things that we do today, we know they can be done better. We just feel that we need to leave part of ourselves in the other side of the door. Let's bring our whole self to work. And that also means the concerning state of the world. So what do we do? Where can we have the biggest impact?